we think there's probably nothing more important of helping move our state forward than how we educate our citizenry. So to talk a little bit about that, I'm going to invite a few people to the stage right now. Jim McHale, who we just saw in the video from Woodward Hines Foundation. Vickie Powell from MEC. She is our Senior Vice President of Foundations and overseeing PEF. Y'all come on up as I introduce you. Dr. Jay Allen, who is the President of Itawamba Community College and the Chair of the Education Achievement Council. Haley Fisackerly, President and CEO of Entergy, Mississippi, a member of the Woodward Hines Foundation Board and also a past chair of MEC. And Dr. Casey Presswood, who is the Associate Commissioner for Academic and Student Affairs at the Mississippi Institutions of Higher Learning. Our panel is going to be moderated by Jason Dean. Jason has done a lot of work in this area. He is the past president of the board of the State Board of Education. And again, I think this issue is so important. I wanted to have them spend a few minutes talking about kind of our next steps in this process and what we're going to do to really make a difference as we educate Mississippians. Jason.
Thank you, Scott. Well, half my job was to introduce everybody, so it's going to be even easier. We've got a great panel here, as you can see, of really talented men and women. What we don't have is a lot of time, and there's a lot to unpack here. First of all, I just want to say to Jim, thank you for that incredible announcement. It's a great example of when philanthropy joins with the private sector and business and the political and education leadership, how you can start moving the needle on education policy. But you said something in the video that's really important. The work is just beginning. And this is a 4-year grant. And we're going to talk a little bit from different perspectives about what that's going to look like. First, I want to turn to Dr. Jay Allen, as he said, President of Itawamba Community College since 2017. But Dr. Allen's also spent a lot of time working with the Education Achievement Council. And I don't know that everybody exactly knows what that is and what role it plays in the development of this initiative. So if you would, just kind of tell us a little bit about the Education Achievement Council and the role it's played.
Thank you, Jason. First of all, I want to say thank you to the Woodward Hines Education Foundation for putting their support forward, especially when you're talking about $1 million investment. Jim, thank you so much for that. And for MEC stepping up and being willing to help us lead this charge to move this forward for the state of Mississippi. I've been blessed to chair the Education Achievement Council for the last year or so, and the council was established in 2010 by the legislature. The purpose was to, and I believe this comes from the statute, the purpose was to sustain attention to the state's goal of increasing the educational attainment and skill level of the state's working age population to the national average by 2025. This was not, unfortunately, a specific enough goal for the state to really be able to receive some national grants that are out there, and unfortunately we also were not on the path to reach that goal by 2025. So I was proud to appoint the Educational Attainment Goal Task Force and had the opportunity to work with them over the last year or so. Wonderful group, just a blessing to work with, and I think we've been able to accomplish some great things in this last period of time. We are roughly 5th from the bottom, unfortunately, in educational or in degree attainment nationally. But on a very positive note, we are 4th highest in improvement since 2008 with an increase of 15.5% in that time period. So we've got some serious momentum as we roll into this new announcement. This is a very challenging goal. Jim calls it our North Star. It will be difficult to reach this challenge, but I believe we can do it. This is not just about a focus on degree attainment, but one of the greatest benefits that we receive by achieving this goal would be over 150,000 credentialed workers added to our workforce by 2030 and over 300,000 added to our workforce by 2035. So you can imagine employers that could have a huge impact. In our efforts as the Attainment Goal Task Force and the EAC, we created 7 initiatives. And these initiatives, I believe, can speak to our partners in industry, economic development, chambers of commerce, and education. Number 1, to increase the number of Mississippi adults with credentials of value. It's pretty obvious. Number 2, get adults with a credential of value to stay in Mississippi. So that's beginning to prevent brain drain. But I think a new item for us is to attract adults with credentials of value to move to Mississippi, ultimately brain gain. And then 4, to increase the number of jobs requiring a credential of value. 5, close ethnic and gender gaps of individuals with credentials of value, and including socioeconomic status. We have a lot of work to do in that area. And then develop ways to show how increasing attainment will benefit Mississippi, not cost us. And then the final goal, create a culture that values credentials of value to carry us for years and years to come. Jason, working on creating and with the team on Ascent to 55%, that task force has just been wonderful to work with them. So proud of what we've been able to accomplish with that, and we've got a lot of work ahead of us.
Thank you for that. And I just want to underline and bold and highlight that number. 150,000 new credentialed workers in the state of Mississippi by 2030. As I was walking in, I had the opportunity to meet a couple of new business leaders I hadn't met before, 5 of them in fact, and all 5 of them said the same thing, and just without me prompting them, without me telling them I'm going to be on the panel. We need a workforce. We need a workforce to grow our business. So that sort of connects the dots for me, for the business community, what this work means. We're increasing the advanced skills level beyond high school. We're at 44.4% now. We want to be at 55% by 2030. That would be a net result of 150,000 new credentialed workers. That's why this work is vitally important. Kel Smith did a great job in the video sort of unpacking the community college system perspective. You as an individual community college president, how do you see this work going for you on campus?
You know, as a community college president, I know that my partners out there in the room and throughout our state, we realize that we're the path for so many adult students to earn a credential of value, coming back to education. We continue to work with the traditional age student moving right out of high school into the community college setting. Many of them will end in a credential that will take them straight to the workforce, but there's many more that will move on to our university partners. And so we want to be there for both of them. We look forward to increasing the opportunities for short-term and credit credentials. We know that those short-term credentials, such as a CDL license, will produce a great earning potential for that individual and gets them to the workforce very quickly. So we look forward to growing more of those opportunities. Much work is to be done on closing the achievement gaps by race, gender, and socioeconomic status, and I truly believe that community colleges help with that every day, but there's so much more work we can do and make an impact on that.
Thank you, Dr. Allen. I'll now turn to Dr. Casey Presswood, a lady I met maybe about a month ago, and let me just tell you, she's phenomenal. I met her and this work with the Woodward Hines Education Foundation, and since I met her, she sent me about 10 reports to read to bring myself up to speed on this. So just got a great knowledge base, not only what's going on in Mississippi, but around the country. So can you speak a little bit about how other states are using this attainment goal to sort of drive their workforce development and education systems?
Yes, thank you, Jason. I think it's important to note that there is not one magic solution for getting a more skilled workforce and increasing the education attainment rate in our state. We are the 45th state to establish an educational attainment goal, and we've been following the other states for several years now, looking at what they're doing, what initiatives they have to try to increase the education attainment rate for their states, and there's a variety of initiatives, and as we've heard already, it's going to take all of us. It's going to take business, industry, education, nonprofit organizations, policymakers. It's going to take all of us to increase the education attainment rate and get a more skilled workforce. And that means there's going to be a lot of initiatives that we need to embark upon to get us there. But I will share 2 with you that I think are worthy of note. In Indiana, they have the Next Level Jobs grant, and they've identified 5 high-demand, high-value industries in Indiana. So any Indiana resident, regardless of age, if they want to get a workforce credential in one of those high-demand areas, then their education is paid for. They get to go to a community college and get a workforce credential in that area. Since the launch of this program in 2017, more than 18,000 workforce credentials have been awarded in the 5 industry areas identified in Indiana. I think that's a great example if we could follow something like that. Another one is the Tennessee Higher Education Initiative for prisons, so offering higher education in the prison system. In Tennessee, incarcerated individuals can earn a workforce credential or an associate degree while they're incarcerated, so that upon release, they have a skill and they're ready to join the workforce. We have, I believe, 5 community colleges, 1 private university, and 1 public university that currently offer some level of higher education in prisons. But there are enough prisons in our state and enough universities and colleges that we could each adopt one, if you will, and offer some sort of higher education program to help give them the skills that they need so that upon release they're ready to join the workforce.
Just a quick follow-up. We saw Dr. Rankins talk a little bit about, what the role of IHL is, but I think there's a lot more to unpack there. Could you just, from a system point of view, IHL is a system as a governing board of our 8 public universities. What role do you think at the system level would be playing?
At the system level, I think we can continue working on college and career readiness, working with our education partners in the K-12 setting, to ensure that high school students are college ready when they graduate high school. Our community colleges, our universities, Woodward, Hines, and several other agencies, I see Selena Schwartzfager out there, we have all worked with MDE to help develop a course called the College and Career Readiness course that's required of all high school students now in order to graduate. I think that's one role that we play. Transitions. We can continue to work with our K-12 partners and our community college partners to ensure a seamless transition from one educational system to the next, so that when students transfer from a community college to a university, they don't lose credit. I think that's really important, and that will help us continue to grow and strengthen as a state if we can get those people through the pipeline faster. Military credit. Prior to COVID, we had passed a policy at IHL that we would begin to work more on articulating military credit to academic credit, and our community college partners joined in on the effort, and we were off to a nice start, and then COVID hit. And we're ready to pick that ball up and start rolling again with that. I have a meeting next week with the Education Services Officer at the Mississippi Army National Guard, and we're going to start working on ways to collaborate together so that we can give veterans and service members credit for past experience and hopefully get them trained and credentialed in areas that will keep them in Mississippi and taking on Mississippi jobs. And finally, we have the Applied Baccalaureate. So the community colleges are the ones who create the workforce credentials, and they're stackable credentials. And when a person leaves a community college, they may have a certificate or they may have an Associate of Applied Science in a technical area. All 8 of our public universities now have applied baccalaureates, whereby we accept those credits and we work with the individual to build the degree program that they need to help them succeed in whatever it is that they're wanting to do. In most cases, that's going to be trying to climb up in management in the business or industry that they're currently in. And I think those are roles that we can play.
Thank you for that. And just a couple of points to highlight. What you said was we're probably going to have to think a little in different ways here. You mentioned prisoners, receiving additional education. When I was on the State Workforce Investment Board, there was a data point that was told to us, I never forgot, that prisoners who receive some sort of workforce training, potentially leading to a credential, have a 85% less recidivism rate. I just think that's just the sort of outside the box sort of thinking that's going to be required to drive to 55%. The other thing that you mentioned with regards to Indiana that I think is worth highlighting is identifying the priority sectors. And I know our Accelerate Mississippi teams here, and I know they're working on it. I know the State Workforce Investment Board's working on it, but alignment of what those priority sectors are is critical. When I first started getting engaged in this work, someone said, sure, you can get to 55% really, really easily by, making 10,000 more lawyers. Well, interesting, but we don't need necessarily 10,000 more lawyers. So we identify what are our targeted growth sectors, and then we quantify where we want to drive, and then what the role of this group would be in the work of the Public Education Forum is to develop policy, laws when necessary, hopefully more, in a regulatory way, to drive resources to add additional jobs, but align to the Office of Workforce Development and the State Workforce Investment Board. And then hopefully community college, IHL, MD, state work, it all, aligns together. So, well, we've talked a lot about the Public Education Forum. Ms. Vickie Powell, my friend, as Scott said, Senior Vice President for Foundations, and part of her portfolio is the Public Education Forum, which is a 501c3 and the recipient of this grant. So I'm going to ask Vickie to tell us more about the Public Ed Forum, what it does, and then specifically what you think the role is of Public Ed Forum over the next 4 years on this grant.
Thank you, Jason. First of all, let me just say we are so excited to be selected to lead this work. The Public Education Forum was founded in 1989 and is a nonpartisan, nonprofit education policy research group created by a broad cross-section of business, education, and political leaders. It is also an affiliate of the Mississippi Economic Council, which is the state chamber of commerce. And our programs currently at the Public Ed Forum, or PEF, includes the Mississippi Scholars Program. The Scholars Program is designed to motivate and encourage students to take a more rigorous course of study in high school. That program was created in 2003. 2004, we had 24 graduates. From that program, we designed the Mississippi Scholars Techmaster program that was created in 2014. The Techmaster program targets those students that are in career tech to basically do the same thing as the Scholars Program, to take a more rigorous course of study in career tech classes. So when those students meet those particular benchmarks for Scholars and Techmaster, we recognize them each year with a medallion, seals for the high school transcript and high school diploma. Since those programs started again in 2003 and 2014, we have recognized over 68,000 graduates with the designation of Mississippi Scholars and or Techmaster. We are also statewide in both programs across the state. We are in every part of the state now. And so what we're doing with the Woodward Hines grant, partnering with them, allows us to increase public awareness of educational opportunities across the state, developing strong partnerships, which is critical to the success of all of our programs and initiatives. With state and industry leaders, data collection is also important so that we can monitor our progress and coordinate with state education officials. So as we move forward, we know that this is just a small part of what's needed to move Mississippi forward and closer to our goal and ultimately to a stronger, more skilled workforce. So we all have a role to play, and this is why we also need your support as we begin this work. We would like to invite leaders in state and local government, business, philanthropy, and education to support this effort. The initial step of this process includes convening key stakeholders to identify areas of responsibility, goals, and potential tactics, working with the EAC and the Woodward Hines Foundation and other partners and sectors to craft and adopt a strategy to implement the attainment goal, developing an appropriate structure which key partners can provide direction for this work, establishing and building relationships with top leaders at the regional, state, and national level in the business, K through 12 education, government, nonprofit, and again, the philanthropy sectors, ensuring that goals of inclusiveness and diversity are met. So again, on behalf of the Public Education Forum, we are excited to do this work, and we need your support to get all of this done and accomplished.
Thank you, Vickie. That's incredible, and I know to echo again what Jim said, the work's just beginning, but we're looking forward to rolling up our sleeves because I think this just crosses over so many important sectors in our both public and private world here in Mississippi. So next, I'm going to turn to Haley Fisackerly, another longtime friend, President and CEO of Entergy Mississippi since 2008. And I'll tell you this, I've known him since he's been president and CEO, and he's never been hesitant to roll up his sleeves and engage in workforce and education issues. I can remember going back to early childhood education days, years ago now, and look what's happened with that. Now it's a, common topic. When 10, 12 years ago, not so much. So your leadership is so vital. I know, your number one goal is to take care of your ratepayers in your certificated area, but, the fact that you were willing to engage is, really valuable to all of us. So from your, perspective, going back to 2008 to now, like, how do you see this initiative playing into specifically what your workforce needs are, and why do you think it's the next new important topic that we should be engaging in?
Thank you, Jason, and appreciate that. Good to see you, and good morning. I do have a perspective here, and I sit here and think about this, and I look at my colleagues at MEC. We end up being the beneficiaries of this. I was sitting out in the hallway talking to Jeff Bowman, Cooperative Energy, and what were we talking about, Jeff? Workforce. I've been in this job almost 14 years now, and if you told me 14 years ago, one of the issues that you would spend the most on is about workforce. Now, look, I love working with our employees, engaging with them, but I never thought we would be spending as much time as we do about the pipeline needs, and it's important. You heard General Collins roll out the secure plan, the Mississippi plan, the secure Mississippi's future plan. The first two issues were about education, workforce, and retainment, about the human capital. I look at the members in this room, and we represent billions and billions of dollars financial capital that has to be deployed. But if we don't have the workers, we can't get there. In my business alone, I stop and think about how much change has happened, and the skill set, Jason, is the biggest change I'm seeing. I was talking to one of our servicemen, linemen, that just recently retired after 45 years, and I said, JB, what are you seeing that's changed the most? He said, Haley, I never thought there would be a day I'd have a computer in my truck. And now we're deploying, this year we'll wrap up deploying the most advanced meter infrastructure system probably in the country, and it's amazing the technology that's going to get out there. Yeah, we did away with meter readers, but now I need meter technicians. And I never thought that one day we would be hiring data scientists, data analysts to understand how you use energy, how we can prevent outages, how we can serve you better. That is happening throughout that. The second place I see that is in our customers. Just a couple of weeks ago, Nissan made an announcement, $500 million investment they're bringing to the state to start making electric vehicles. They're spending $50 million in partnership with Accelerate Mississippi, $50 million retraining 2,000 of those workers. Why? The technical skill sets are changing. That is a common theme I'm hearing when I talk to our customers. And then the third reason, Jason, I get the opportunity to work on a lot of economic development projects. I'll never forget back when the early days when we were courting Continental, I was called to a dinner. Governor Bryant calls me up and invites me to a meeting, and there was a few other business leaders there. And I'm going to this meeting, Jason, thinking, okay, I've got to get ready to talk about electric rates or things of the nature, or whatever, in my bailiwick. The entire 4 hours that night, other than getting to know each other, what they wanted to talk about was workforce. They wanted to know about the workforce ethic of Mississippians. They wanted to know about our experience of workers. And more importantly, they want to know, are they trainable? Can they learn? And that's what this technical training, all of us in our business, whether you're making forklifts at Taylor or construction workers or stuff, we're dealing with new technology. We're going to have to retrain them. I read that our children and maybe our grandchildren will probably see 30 different job changes during their careers. That means they've got to be able to learn. They've got to be technically adaptable. Those are the challenges that we're seeing, and that's what excites me about this. Yes, we've made progress. We've talked about early childhood. We've looked at Techmaster. We're checking off the box. But the other thing we're seeing, this attainment goal is another metric that businesses look at when they're making decisions on where they go. Site selections, when businesses choose where they're going to go, the old days of whining and dining them and showing your place have gone. If you don't have the incentive packages, the infrastructure, and the workforce, you won't ever know if you were looked at. I have talked to businesses that have told us that, well, we're not going to look there right now because we don't think you have the trainable workforce available yet. This goal gets us there, and it will make the difference.
Thank you for those comments, and I think from an industry perspective, they're so important. And as you were talking, I was thinking, you know, some of our regional economic developers around the state, David Rumbarger, George Friedland, whoever, could have sat in that chair and said the same thing. As they sit in front of site selectors, as they talk about what the requirements are, they're hearing the same thing over and over, and that's a common theme. And the other comment I would make is back to this, you know, pick an issue and get behind it. So when MEC does that, they do that extremely well. Early childhood education was an example. Again, 20 years ago, people were talking about it, but not as profoundly. Now look, you know, the flag, that was an issue that really started 20 years ago, but then, you know, took fire with MEC's leadership. Infrastructure. So you know, infrastructure under Joe Frank Sanderson became a big topic, and then look what happened. So I say that to say, you know, if MEC and the Public Ed Forum, you know, really get behind this, I think we could see some profound change and try and answer that question about workforce, not only qualifications, but skills training, advanced skills training, and just the sheer numbers. So thank you for that perspective. All right, Jim, bring us home. First of all, I want to take a moment just to say thank you again. This is just an incredible gift. I think you're driving one of the most important public policy conversations that we're having in our state. Your willingness to have your foundation put money behind this, I think, has a multiplier effect, and we, you know, intend to see that through. So, any concluding comments based on what you heard, or any other additional statements you'd like to make for us?
So, Jason, does this mean I'm giving the benediction?
What's
Am I giving the benediction of this? Okay.
I'll bow.
First, let me, on behalf of the board of the foundation, really thank Scott, the general, and Vickie, and the leadership of MEC and the Public Education Forum for really stepping into what I would submit as a very courageous leadership role. You're the right organization at the right time to take this on. I've been asked to maybe give just a little advertisement of who the Woodward Hines Education Foundation is. We're a foundation that's been in Mississippi for 27 years with the sole purpose of getting more people to and through college and connecting them to meaningful employment opportunities in Mississippi. Many of you may know us through our flagship program called Get to College. It's a program where we provide direct services to students. Last year we served over 45 individual students through our 3 centers in Jackson, Ocean Springs, and South Haven. We're going to be opening up a new center later this year in the Mississippi Delta. We've worked with 40,000 individuals last year in training, may it be in ACT prep and Fafsa training and the like. So we're an organization that's based in Mississippi, and we're not going to go anywhere at all. So we're here for the long haul. But Jason, this is what we know. We know that a high school diploma is not enough. We know that all students must get some type of post-secondary degree to get the types of jobs that we want to recruit to Mississippi and that lead to some type of meaningful income. We also know that Mississippi has some of the best community colleges in the nation. We have some of the best universities in the nation. We have employers like Entergy Mississippi who are investing significant resources into educating and re-educating their staff. We also know that we have some really exciting things taking place. Dr. Wright referenced, in 2019, we were the only state in the nation to see an increase in reading scores and math scores. In the last 3 years, Mississippi has been ranked 3rd, 4th, and 5th in the nation in FAFSA completion rates. Filling out the FAFSA is the #1 indicator of whether a student is going to go to college or not. We have a record high number of 85% high school graduation rate. So there is tremendous momentum. And our opportunity is now, how do we catch that wave and work with these students to not just get them through high school, but get them to and through college? But we also know that we can't fix tomorrow's problems with yesterday's designs. And so let me just share one example, and there's many of them. Let's look at student financial aid in Mississippi. Our current financial aid system is not aligned to meet the needs and goals of Mississippi. The last time student financial aid was redesigned in Mississippi was in the 1990s, when a year of tuition at a public university was $2,500. Today, it's $9,000. And with all costs in of room and board and tuition and fees, you're looking at $25,000. Our student financial aid system currently doesn't support part-time students. Well, a lot of our students can't afford to stop working because they're low income. It also doesn't support adult students, yet we know that nationally, 40% of college students are between the ages of 22 and 40. So this is one of those barriers that we're really going to have to look at. How do we address to make sure that more students in Mississippi have the means and the resources to continue their education and to complete that degree and to get that type of job that will help them reach that holy grail of economic self-sufficiency. Reaching this effort is going to be a team sport. None of us are going to be able to do it alone. Public Education Forum can't do it alone. Our education system can't do it alone. It's going to require all of us, from policymakers to educational leaders to business leaders to philanthropy to nonprofits to students and parents. And I would submit to you that if we're successful at that, we will indeed change the lives of Mississippians and our economy for the next 40 years. And with that, Jason, I end my benediction with amen.
Amen. Amen. Scott, General Collins, thank you for allowing us to be here today and talk a little bit more about this. Y'all, help me thank our panel for giving her their time today. Thank you very much. Scott?